Hello, this is Mr. Chabry, and today we're going to talk about my top 5 favorite Kanto Pokemon. So most of the Pokemon on this list are going to be here because of nostalgic reasons. However, there's going to be some of them that's on here because I tried them out in later years, some of them as recently as last year or the year before, and realized how much I really like using them on my team. But most of them, like I said, it's going to be for nostalgic reasons. I started out with Generation 1, and you're going to see a lot of these are Pokemon that I had on my team as a kid. So number 5 on my list is going to be Pidgeot. Pidgeot's a Pokemon that I love to use as a kid. This would honestly be my flying type of choice as I play through a big chunk of Pokemon games. When I played Yellow for the first time as a child, this was a Pokemon that was there next to my Pikachu and my Butterfree that I had leveled up to a crazy amount. I really liked using Pidgeot. The main reason was, first off, it's very easy to get. I would often have the Pidgey that I had from Route 1 and just level that thing up so I'd have a good flying type. And of course, it was really useful, especially once it was able to get fly. I would use it to fly around. In the older games, you really need a flying type in order to fly. So Pidgeot was my flying type of choice. And I used this thing through many playthroughs, not only of Generation 1, but even Generation 2 I would use a Pidgeot. I really do think Pidgeot's a good Pokemon. Of course, later on in the game, it does kind of, it doesn't do as well as it does early on. But that's why Pidgeot's on my number 5 list. It's a Pokemon that I used many times in the past. I actually used it for my Pokemon Yellow playthrough when I first played Pokemon Yellow. I played it through Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Silver. It was my flying type of choice there. And honestly, the first time I played Pokemon Soul Silver, that was my flying type too. So Pidgeot's a Pokemon that I really grew to love over the years. And if my dad had a list of favorite Pokemon, I know this would be in his top 3 because he's told me that this would be up there. And I'm going to put it as my number 5. I love Pidgeot. It's a good Pokemon. Of course, it is kind of outclassed by other flying types, but I can't help it. There's like a nostalgic feeling whenever I see Pidgeot. So number 4 is going to be Sandslash. So Sandslash is a Pokemon that I fell in love with as a kid. I really like the design of this thing. This thing looks really cool. It's like a Sonic the Hedgehog, only brown, and this thing's pretty awesome. I often would use this thing whenever I did a playthrough of Pokemon Blue. This would be one of the ground types that I would pick, and I always love ground types. Ground types are my second favorite type, only behind fire types. So yeah, I would play with this thing a lot. I used it a lot in Pokemon Stadium. I thought this thing looked so cool, especially if you use Dig, it looked pretty cool, how it just spun around and bored into the ground. But yeah, this is honestly a really cool Pokemon. I love its design. I always thought Sandshrew was cute too. I saw that episode of the anime where Ash and Pikachu come across a kid training Sandshrew, and I always thought Sandshrew would be my pick over Pikachu. If I was someone that had to pick, like say Team Rocket, and I had to pick Pikachu or that Sandshrew, I would pick that Sandshrew. That thing was awesome. It was able to use like a magnitude or earthquake. I don't remember what move it used, but it just destroyed the stadium that they were battling in. And I always thought Sandshrew was cool. I thought Sandslash was even cooler. This thing is nice. I like its design, and that's why Sandslash is my number 4. So now we're at number 3, and my number 3 is actually going to be Dragonite. Dragonite is a cool Pokemon. I was always intrigued by this Pokemon when I was younger. There's that episode of the anime where Ash and Co. comes across this giant Dragonite, and that made me think, wow, this Pokemon must be the strongest Pokemon. That's honestly what I thought. Of course, that was before the movie came out, so we didn't realize how powerful Mewtwo was. And honestly, I hadn't got to the point in the game where you have to catch Mewtwo, so honestly, I had no way of knowing that Mewtwo was the strongest Pokemon. All I had to go off of was this episode of the anime where there's this giant Dragonite that just comes in and destroys everything. It's so huge, it's so mysterious. No one knew what was going on, so Dragonite is so awesome. And my love of this actually has grown over recent years. I don't know if you've watched any of my PGBL battles, but that's a draft league that I've been in. And Dragonite was honestly one of the Pokemon that I used the most in the PGBL draft league. This Pokemon is awesome. I love Dragonite. It has such a cool stat distribution. 134 attack, that's really nice. It has a cool ability too, multi-scale, meaning it's going to be able to take hits better, especially on that first turn. And a lot of people run it with weakness policy just for that. And I kind of use that a lot when I played through the PGBL. This was honestly my Z-move user of choice because of that, because you could give it like Steelium Z and surprise fairy types that come in on this thing. With a weakness policy, if a fairy type uses Moonblast or something, you're very likely to live it with that multi-scale and be able to get a big boost out of weakness policy, and then extreme speed, Iron Head, whatever you want. This is honestly a really cool Pokemon. I love using it in battles, and since I was a kid, I was so mesmerized by this mysterious Mon. Of course, I didn't know how to get one as a kid, because I got a Dratini, but I didn't have the patience to level it up. You have to level it all the way up to level 50 something, and I didn't really have the patience. So I never had one as a kid, but honestly, it would be really cool to go through Pokemon Yellow, Red, or Blue and try it out on the team. So yeah, Dragonite is my number 3. So now we're at number 2, and of course we're not going to have a top 5 favorite Kanto Pokemon list without at least one of the starters showing up somewhere on the list, and that's what's going to happen right now. Blastoise is my number 2. So of course I did start with Pokemon Yellow, but later on I did get Pokemon Blue, and I always chose Squirtle. I really loved using Squirtle throughout the game, and eventually Blastoise. Of course, Blastoise is on the cover of Pokemon Blue, and it looks amazing. I always thought Blastoise looked a lot cooler than Charizard. I mean, of course, you got a dragon with fire on its tail, but this is a turtle with cannons coming out of its shell. That is so cool, especially to a kid that's just looking at this going, wow, I want that Pokemon. So, of course, you can get it after you choose Squirtle and you level it up. And honestly, even playing through Pokemon Yellow, Blastoise was my water type of choice. Of course, you get all the starters in Pokemon Yellow, but Blastoise would be the one that I used the most out of those starters. I did have a Charmeleon. I didn't use it enough to get it into Charizard. I had Ivysaur. Didn't use it enough to get a Venusaur my first time playing it, but I did have a Blastoise because I wanted to use Blastoise so badly, and I just picked it over and over again in Pokemon Blue. And even when I first got Pokemon Fire Red, because that's the version I got, I still picked Blastoise over Charizard. I love Blastoise, and even in Pokemon X and Y, when you're given the choice of a Kanto starter there, I picked Blastoise. Blastoise is so awesome. I loved using that thing. I like when you turn on the 3D and X and Y and use Water Pulse, it has that little effect where it's like, oh, you know, unfortunately they did away with 3D images in battle. I really like that though, but that's neither here or there. Blastoise is totally awesome. This thing is a really good battler too. I love using Mega Blastoise, especially in RU tier, the lower tier where there's not as much competition with other Megas. Even in higher tiers, I'll sometimes try out Blastoise, Mega Blastoise. But yeah, I love Blastoise. This is an awesome Pokemon. I have a lot of nostalgia for this thing too. I don't know if you could tell or not, but yeah, I feel a lot of nostalgia for Blastoise. So yeah, that's going to be my number 2 pick. So with every top 5 favorite list, there's going to be a few Pokemon that were on the short list but didn't quite make the cut, and we're going to have a chance to look at those. This is the honorable mentions, and really I've only got 2 honorable mentions. I do have a few more that didn't quite make the cut, but these 2 are up there because I thought, let's give these 2 a shout out. They were on the short list, and they were almost on the top 5 list. And the first one's actually going to be Vileplume. So Vileplume's a Pokemon I didn't really use much as a kid. I didn't really use very many grass types really. So yeah, I didn't really use the thing as a kid, but later on I did start using it a little bit more. When I first played through Pokemon Y, this was the Pokemon that I used as my grass type. and I was actually blown away with how well it was working on my team. I used this Blastoise and then my starter Delphox, and this was honestly a Pokemon that I really used up there with those other two. This is a Pokemon that's actually a lot better than I realized it was as a kid, and I even used this in the Season 2 of the PGBL, and I was actually shocked by how well it was doing in that. This is a Pokemon that I was able to take a hit from Naganadel. Take that in mind, Naganadel's a really immensely powerful Pokemon, and I used a bulky Vileplume, and it was able to take a hit. So yeah, this thing is actually surprisingly bulky, and it is a really good Pokemon. It's a Pokemon a lot of people kind of look past because it's just one of those that on paper doesn't seem as good as it actually is. And that's why I really like Vileplume. That's why it's going to be on my honorable mentions. So the next honorable mention we're going to look at is going to actually be the only non-fully evolved Pokemon on this list, and that's going to be Venonat. So Venonat's a Pokemon I've always thought was adorable. This is a cute little purple fuzzball, and whenever I had one in my Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon Blue, I would not let it evolve because it was too adorable. Of course, Venomoth does look cool, but Venonat was the Pokemon that I wanted. This is just so adorable, and I always thought it looked really cool in the anime whenever Ash and Co come across Koga. They have the cute little Venonat running around, causing havoc with them, leading them into traps of Voltorbs. This thing is so adorable. I've always thought this was a cute Pokemon. That's the main reason why I was so in love with it as a kid. It's not because it's a cool battler, not because it looks cool, edgy, and, you know, it's just so cute. So here we are at my #1 favorite Kanto Pokemon, and that Pokemon is Nidoking. So Nidoking's a Pokemon that I think has one of the coolest designs. If you had every Pokemon lined up in a row and asked someone to look at these Pokemon that's never even played Pokemon before, they'd probably point at Nidoking and say, that one looks awesome. Plus, it has one of the coolest cries. I would often continuously hit the cry button just so I can hear this thing's cry, and I used it quite a few times on my teams. I played through Yellow with this thing on my team, Blue with this thing on my team, and I even played through Fire Red for the first time with this thing on my team. It's such a strong Pokemon. It's actually very easy to get. Once you get a Nidorino, just evolve it with a Moonstone, and you've got a powerful Pokemon that can help you out. And this thing will help you out through a big chunk of the early game if you get it early enough. It'll demolish teams, and this thing is honestly good throughout the whole in-game team, but even competitively, this thing's really good. As a competitive Pokemon, instead of relying on its physical attack, a lot of people give it special attack investments, so they can give it a Life Orb, have it boost some of its wide range of moves that it has with its ability Sheer Force, and this thing gets a lot of different moves. It gets Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, it gets even Surf. It's a ground type that gets Surf, and that's actually really cool. And this thing has one of the coolest typings, Poison and Ground. That's a really awesome typing. And like I said before, Ground type is my second favorite typing. This is my favorite Ground type. This is such a solid Pokemon. It's good competitively, it's good on an in-game team, it looks cool by itself, and even in the anime it's cool. Whenever Ash would battle Gary, or whenever Gary was on scene with a Nidoking, I would be cheering for Gary's Nidoking. That's the Pokemon I wanted to see succeed in the battle. Nidoking was awesome, and I've always loved Nidoking. I would use it in Pokemon Stadium over and over and over. This is such a strong Pokemon, and it's such a cool design. Oh my gosh, I'm just gushing over how awesome Nidoking is. I feel a lot of nostalgia for this thing. I love using it on my battle teams because it's just so good there too. This is a solid Pokemon. That's why it's my #1 favorite Kanto Pokemon. So there it is, my top 5 favorite Kanto Pokemon. Go ahead and put in the comments your top 5 favorite Kanto Pokemon. I'm actually really curious to see if we share a lot of the same favorite Pokemon from Kanto, or if you have maybe some other starter. Maybe you like Charizard better than Blastoise. Maybe you're the one that picked Bulbasaur over the other two. Go ahead, put in the comments. I'm actually very interested in seeing that. And If you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you in the next Pokemon video.